Don't watch this alone. What you're about to hear is not a story meant for nighttime. If you've ever heard whistling outside your house late at night, this might just explain why you couldn't sleep afterwards. And the most unsettling part, this case is still active. The earliest reports were strange, not because of what they described, but because of where they came from. They didn't start in one country, or even on one continent. They came from all over. Different cities, different languages, but the details were terrifyingly consistent. And it was always between 3:10 and 3:30 a.m. Police were called, houses were searched, but the official logs almost always ended with the same line: no intruder found. The sound would fade, leaving the residents shaken, with an unshakable feeling they were not alone. These weren't just a few isolated incidents. We're talking about dozens, then hundreds of reports, all echoing the same chilling details. It was a global phenomenon that authorities, for a time, simply couldn't connect. At first, the explanations were predictable. Authorities dismissed it as pranksters, or maybe just the wind playing tricks on the mind in the dead of night. Maybe it was an animal, a strange bird call echoing in the dark. But the more reports that came in, the more it became clear this wasn't a natural sound. The whistling didn't behave like any sound they had ever encountered. Witnesses said the sound moved, but not in the way a person moves. There were no footsteps, no rustling leaves, no creaking floorboards. It was described as drifting. One moment, it would be just outside the bedroom window. The next, it would be behind the front door. And then, most terrifyingly of all, it would sound like it was somewhere inside the house with them. Panicked residents would search every room, only to find every door and window still locked, just as they had left them. No one had broken in, nothing was stolen. The only thing that had entered their home was the sound itself. How was that possible? It defied the laws of physics. A disembodied whistle that could seemingly pass through solid walls. The first real breakthrough, if you can call it that, came from technology. As home security systems became more common, we started getting evidence. And what that evidence showed was deeply disturbing. Security cameras captured something truly bizarre. At the exact moment the whistling was reported to begin, the video footage would glitch. It would freeze, pixelate, or just cut to static. The audio recordings were even stranger. In several verified cases, the whistling was clearly recorded, even when the microphone was inside a soundproofed room or turned off entirely. Audio experts were brought in to analyze the recordings, and they couldn't explain it. The sound wasn't just loud, it seemed to be manipulating the electronics themselves. They noted how the sound seemed to change location in the recordings without any corresponding Doppler effect or change in volume that would suggest movement. One audio technician famously quit the investigation after spending a week reviewing the files. His resignation letter contained a single, chilling note. He wrote that the sound wasn't traveling from one place to another. It was repositioning. It was as if it was ceasing to exist in one spot and instantly beginning to exist in another. As investigators pored over thousands of pages of reports and witness statements from around the globe, another terrifying pattern emerged. A single, crucial detail that connected almost every case: the time. No one could explain why. What was the significance of that specific minute? Some paranormal investigators and theorists believe this is the witching hour's true apex, a moment when the veil between worlds is at its thinnest. The investigators on the official case have a more terrifying theory. They believe 3:17 a.m. isn't just a random time. It's the moment the source of the sound is closest to us, the moment it is most aware of our presence. For a long time, The phenomenon was just that, a terrifying sound. But then, people started to disappear. At first, the missing persons cases were dismissed as tragic, but unrelated coincidences. People go missing all the time, for all sorts of reasons. But then, forensic analysts got access to their phone records and digital footprints, and they discovered something that turned this from a strange mystery into an active threat. Every single person who vanished had one thing in common: they had heard the whistling. And more than that, they had responded to it. Cell phone data showed one victim's phone moving towards their front door just moments before it went offline forever. Another victim's smart home device activated its microphone, recording the sound of them whistling back into the darkness. A third sent a text to a friend that just said, "I'm going to tell it to stop." None of them were ever seen or heard from again. And here's the most disturbing part. In every single area where a person disappeared after interacting with the sound, the whistling stopped. It never returned. It was as if it had found what it was looking for. So if you ever hear a slow whistle outside your window in the middle of the night, whatever you do, don't answer, don't look, and don't make a sound. Pretend you heard nothing, because some things, once they have your attention, will not let you go. They sought help. Doctors couldn't find a physical cause. Psychiatrists diagnosed it as extreme stress or auditory hallucinations. You open the door, not with your hand, but with your mind. So, a final warning. If you hear a strange whistling in the dead of night, ignore it. Put in headphones. Turn on the TV. Do whatever you can to drown it out. But if that whistling starts to sound familiar, if it starts playing a song that only you should know, it's already too late. Thank you for joining us for this tale. If you want to explore more mysteries that hide in the shadows, be sure to subscribe to Tales of the Dark before it's too late.